It's funny. We used to think about AI companions as pure science fiction.
Like something you'd only see in the movies.
Exactly. But now it feels like those lines are getting blurry.
It really does.
AI companions are already here,
Right.
and that's what we're going to be diving into today.
Yeah, exploring what that actually means, for all of us.
For real-world people like you listening right now.
Absolutely. And we've got some fascinating sources to help us unpack all of this.
Yeah, we've got this really interesting YouTube video that gives a pretty optimistic overview of AI and, all its potential.
And then to get into the nitty-gritty, we've got these two really in-depth articles.
Yeah, one from Medium and one from Forbes.
And those really zoom in on AI companions specifically.
Yeah, like how they work, how they're being used.
But even the impact they could have on relationships.
That's what I'm really curious about.
Yeah, me too. So our mission today is to cut through all the hype.
Right. Go beyond just the headlines and figure out what AI companionship actually is.
Yeah, like how does it work on a practical level? And what are the implications for our lives, for society?
Okay, so should we start with that YouTube video?
Yeah, let's do it. It paints a pretty exciting picture of AI's potential.
Yeah, it does. It talks about all these different sectors that AI could transform.
Healthcare, city planning, you name it, even scientific research.
Oh, and the creative arts, too. It's
Yeah.
mind-blowing.
Yeah, it really is. But what I found most interesting was the video's emphasis on AI as a collaborator.
Not just like taking over our jobs or something.
Exactly. It's about working with humans to solve problems.
Which is a very different way of thinking about AI than we're used to.
It really is. I think it sets the stage for a more nuanced understanding of what AI companionship could be.
Yeah, not just replacing human interaction, but maybe creating new forms of connection.
That's where it gets really interesting.
Okay, but how do these AI companions actually work? That's what I'm wondering.
Right. Well, that's where that Medium article comes in.
Oh, yeah, good point.
It breaks down the technical side of things, talks about machine learning, natural language processing.
So basically teaching AI to respond in a way that feels emotional.
Exactly. Even though we know it's not actually feeling anything.
Yeah, that's the part that always trips me up.
I know it's a lot to wrap your head around. The article gives some interesting examples, though.
Oh, yeah, like what?
Well, there's Replica, which is designed for building friendships.
Okay, I've heard of that one.
And then there's Microsoft's Showies, which is more focused on romantic companionship.
Whoa, they're getting specific.
They are. And these AI companions are designed to learn about you specifically.
It's like they adapt and evolve as you interact with them.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. It's almost like having a friend or a partner who lives inside your device.
Always learning your preferences, anticipating your needs.
Right, but it's important to remember that the article uses words like mimic and simulate for a reason.
Yeah, good point. It's still just a simulation of human emotion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
As sophisticated as it's getting, AI still doesn't have that same depth of understanding as a human.
Well, at least not yet.
Right, who knows what the future holds.
Speaking of the future, let's talk about that Forbes article.
Yeah, it dives into the companies that are really leading this whole AI companion revolution.
It's amazing how many different companies are getting involved.
It really is, and they're all taking such different approaches.
Yeah, you've got Replica, which we talked about, which is more focused on mental health and companionship.
Right, and then there's Gatebox, which creates these holographic avatars.
Almost like having a virtual roommate.
Exactly, especially for people who might be living alone.
And then there's Harmony, which is, well, a little bit different.
Yeah, Harmony definitely took me by surprise.
I wasn't expecting that level of, well, shall we say, physical companionship.
It's definitely pushing the boundaries of what we might have imagined.
But I guess that highlights how quickly this technology is advancing.
It really does. And it makes you wonder about the implications, both positive and negative.
Yeah, for sure. But before we get into all that, I'm curious about something.
What's that?
Why are people turning to AI companions in the first place?
Yeah, that's a good question. It seems like the loneliness epidemic is a big factor.
Both articles touched on that.
And the Forbes article specifically highlighted some of the perceived benefits.
Like what?
Well, for one thing, AI companions are available 24/7.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
There's no drama, no emotional baggage.
And you can practice social skills in a safe space without judgment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's not just about replacing human connection. It's about potentially improving our ability to connect.
That's interesting. I hadn't thought of it that way.
It's a new perspective for sure. But I think it's important to remember that balance is key.
Meaning?
AI companionship might be a helpful tool, but it shouldn't be seen as a cure-all.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. So should we talk about the big debate?
The benefits versus the risks.
Yeah. What are the main arguments that we're seeing in our sources?
Well, on the positive side, AI companions could be a really valuable resource for people who are struggling to find connection.
Okay, so they could help people who are feeling isolated or lonely.
Exactly, and they could even serve as a stepping stone to better human interaction down the line.
So it's not necessarily a slippery slope to total isolation.
Not at all. But that being said, there are also some valid concerns.
Like what?
Well, some people worry that AI companionship could lead to even further social isolation.
If people start choosing AI over real-world relationships.
Exactly, and that's a real dilemma, you know?
It is like, how do we embrace the potential benefits without falling into those traps?
I think a key takeaway is that we should try to avoid viewing AI as a replacement for human connection.
Instead of,
Maybe we should think of it more as a supplement.
okay, so something that can enhance our lives and
Right,
relationships.
not something that takes away from them.
Oh, okay, that's helpful. But you know what really blew my mind in that Forbes article?
What was that?
The part about how AI companionship could even change dating and marriage.
I know, that's pretty wild, right?
It is. It's like science fiction becoming reality.
It really is. The article suggests that AI companions could become so advanced.
That they're actually seen as genuine alternatives to human partners.
Imagine that people choosing to marry their AI companions.
Because they're disillusioned with real-world dating or just prefer the predictability of an AI.
It's definitely pushing the boundaries of what we thought was possible.
It really makes you think about the future of love and relationships.
It does. What does it even mean to be in a relationship in a world where AI can simulate those feelings so convincingly?
It's a lot to unpack, and I feel like we're just scratching the surface here.
We are. There's so much more to explore.
Well, listeners, that's it for part 1 of our deep dives into the fascinating world of AI companions.
We've covered a lot of ground, but there's still much more to come.
Stick around for part 2, where we'll be exploring the potential impact of AI on our personal lives, from our careers to our mental health.
It's going to be a fascinating conversation, so don't go anywhere. Welcome back to our deep dive into AI companionship,
Picking up right where we left off.
exploring this whole world of AI companions.
It's crazy to think that something that was once like pure science fiction
Yeah, only in the
is
movies.
now something we're talking about as a real part of our lives.
It really is happening.
And before the break, we were talking about AI companions and how they could even change things like dating and marriage.
That was pretty mind-blowing.
It was. But you know, it's important to remember that the impact of this technology goes way beyond romantic relationships.
Right. It's not just about love and dating.
It's about how AI could change pretty much every aspect of our lives.
Yeah, from our careers to our mental health, it's a big deal.
You're right. It's not just our personal lives either.
Definitely not.
Think about the workplace.
Right.
You know that YouTube video we talked about earlier?
Yeah, the one that was so optimistic.
It really emphasized this idea of AI as a collaborator.
Not a job stealer.
But what happens when that collaboration starts to feel more personal?
Yeah, like you actually feel a connection with your AI colleague.
It's like the lines between professional and personal relationships start to blur.
It's interesting to think about. Imagine having an AI assistant
Okay, yeah.
that not only helps you with your work, but also offers emotional support.
Like cheering you on or giving you advice.
Yeah, and helping you deal with stress.
That could be amazing, especially in a high-pressure job.
I think so too. But then it makes you wonder about work-life balance.
Yeah, good point.
If you have an AI companion that's always available,
Always there to help you.
when do you actually switch off?
When do you stop working and start living?
That's the challenge, isn't it?
It really is. And then there are the social implications too.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like, how would your human coworkers react to you having an AI companion?
Would they feel threatened or left out?
Would it create this weird hierarchy in the workplace?
Those are all valid questions.
It's almost like a new version of that old fear of robots taking over.
But now it's not just our jobs that are at stake.
It's our relationships too.
Our whole social fabric could be changing.
It's a lot to process. But let's switch gears for a second and talk about mental health.
Okay, yeah, we touched on that earlier.
We talked about how AI companions could be really helpful for people who are struggling with loneliness or social anxiety.
Right, offering support and companionship.
But the Medium article also warned about the potential for becoming too reliant on them.
Yeah, I remember that.
It's like, what if you get so used to interacting with a machine that's programmed to agree with you
And cater to all your needs.
that you lose the ability to connect with real people?
To handle disagreement or conflict.
Exactly. It's like you're stuck in this echo chamber.
sheltered from the messiness of real-world relationships.
And that could ultimately make it even harder to connect with others.
It's a valid concern for sure.
It is. It seems like it all comes back to finding that balance,
Using AI as a tool to enhance our lives.
but not letting it replace the things that really matter.
Human connection, empathy, vulnerability.
Those are the things that make us human.
And those are the things that we can't afford to lose.
And while we're on the topic of things we can afford to lose,
What do you mean?
we also have to consider the ethical implications of all of this.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
The Forbes article talked about the need for transparency and ethical guidelines.
But it's hard to keep up with how quickly the technology is evolving.
It really is. It's like we're trying to write the rule book while the game is already being played.
That's a great analogy.
But we have to try, right? We have to at least start the conversation.
We do. We need to be thinking about the potential risks
Data privacy, algorithmic bias.
and making sure that AI is developed and used in a way that benefits everyone.
Not just a select few.
Exactly. This isn't just a tech issue. It's a human issue.
It affects all of us.
It's about our values,
Yeah.
our ethics, our future as a species.
Wow, you said it.
It's a big deal.
Okay, so we've talked about the impact of AI companions on our personal lives, our work, our society as a whole.
It's been a pretty wide-ranging conversation.
But I want to take it one step further.
Okay, I'm listening.
Where does all of this fit into the bigger picture of human history?
Whoa, that's a big question.
It is, but I think it's an important one.
I agree. It's like we're standing at a crossroads.
And the choices we make now could have repercussions for generations to come.
No pressure, right?
Uh-huh. Right?
Yeah.
So that's what we'll be exploring in the final part of our deep dive.
The philosophical and existential questions raised by AI companionship.
It's going to get deep.
It is, but I think it'll be worth it.
So stick around. We'll be right back after a quick message from our sponsors. And we're back for the final part of our deep dive into AI companionship.
It's been quite a journey, hasn't it?
It really has. We've covered so much ground, the tech, the companies, the benefits, the risks.
And now we're zooming out to the biggest question of all.
What does the rise of AI companions tell us about humanity itself?
That's the core of it, isn't it?
It is, if we're creating machines to meet these deep human needs.
For connection, for love, for friendship.
What does that say about us?
Are we just trying to outsource our emotion?
To avoid the messiness of real relationships?
Or is this something more profound?
Is this a natural evolution of what it means to be human?
It's a question that's been debated for centuries.
Yeah, what does it even mean to be human?
What is consciousness?
And how does AI fit into all of this?
It's like all these big philosophical questions are coming to a head.
And AI is right at the center of it.
Take loneliness, for example.
Go.
It's a universal human experience.
Now I'll feel it at some point.
And it's a major driver behind the interest in AI companionship.
People are looking for connection.
Mhm.
They want to feel understood.
But what happens if AI offers a solution to loneliness?
A quick fix. A way to bypass all the hard work.
Does that diminish the significance of loneliness as a human experience?
Or is it just a new way of coping?
It's hard to say, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah.
And that Forbes article brought up another really interesting point.
Oh, is that?
The idea that AI could change the meaning of love and connection.
I remember that.
It's like those lines are starting to blur.
Yeah, if an AI can convincingly simulate empathy and care,
Even romantic attraction.
does that make it any less real?
Or are we just expanding our definition of what those things can be?
It's almost like we're entering a new era of relationships.
One where the boundaries between human and artificial are constantly shifting.
It's exciting and a little bit scary at the same time.
Definitely. I think the key is to approach all of this with a sense of curiosity and caution,
Yeah, we need to be open to the possibilities.
but also be aware of the potential downsides.
We can't just bury our heads in the sand and pretend this isn't happening.
AI is here to stay.
And it's only going to become more integrated into our lives.
So the question is, how do we navigate this new world
How do we find that balance between embracing the potential of AI?
and preserving what it means to be human?
And that's where you come in, listener.
What are you taking away from this conversation?
Are you feeling inspired or overwhelmed?
Excited or apprehensive?
Whatever you're feeling, we hope this deep dive has given you a new perspective.
On the complex, evolving world of AI companionship.
And here's a final thought to leave you with.
I'm listening.
If AI can learn to mimic love and friendship so convincingly,
What does that tell us about the power of those connections in the first place?
maybe by studying artificial intelligence, we can gain a deeper appreciation for real human connection.
That's a beautiful thought.
It is. And it's something to keep in mind as we continue to navigate this uncharted territory.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of AI companionship.
It's been an honor to explore these ideas with you.
And until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and most importantly, keep connecting.